Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Will and Drew's Gaming Retrospective. You are listening to episode 12 for the week of January 20th, 2019. I'm your host, Drew, and I am joined by technologically irritated Will.
Hi, Drew.
How's it going, buddy?
Surviving, man. Another day.
You're having some issues over there right now, aren't you?
I was having some issues, and hopefully they have been stabilized.
You ever get like this urge to just take a hammer to your computer?
At least twice a week.
Okay. So it's not just me then?
No.
Fair
I think it's
enough.
a good portion of the population.
It really is, and it's amazing that we have these wonderful devices that do all these things. And like, I even enjoy tinkering with computers, but man, when shit goes wrong, like, it is just the absolute worst. And you can't even like live without it. It's such a pain in the ass.
I know. It's a love-hate.
It really is. It really is. Well, we're here to talk about video games. We're not here to talk about computers and technology woes. So, first of all, just want to thank everybody for downloading the show. Make sure you're subscribing to us in any form that you can, either on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, whatever your favorite podcast application is. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at WDGRPodcast. It's at WDGRPodcast. And if you like what we're doing, please take a moment to like and share any of our posts. Leave a comment. We got a lot of great feedback from everybody today, and I'll dive into that in just a second. But Will, if somebody wants to follow you on social media, how can they find you?
Will_gear.
And you can follow me at ScionStorm. And, well, let's dive into what we're playing first, Will, and then we'll hit up the mailbag and see what everybody else is playing. What are you playing this week?
Sounds good to me, man. It's pretty much the same kind of thing. I am playing Tetris Effect when I can, and I'm playing Shadow of the Colossus when I can. So lately it's been a little tough just with some stuff going on with life and work.
Yeah.
But hopefully after the show today, I'm going to maybe warm up with Tetris and then move on to Colossus.
That sounds like a pretty good plan. It sounds like Tetris is a nice warm-up for you. It's something you kind of use to like loosen up the fingers, so to speak.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I mean, for me, I really haven't had a lot of game time in, unfortunately. I spent, I think it was Monday evening, playing Sins of a Solar Empire with our friend Vency. And we've been kind of easing into the game little by little. I'm a little bit more experienced at it than he is, so just because I've had it longer. So I'm kind of showing him the ropes as we go, and we've been starting out with like one easy opponent, and then we move on to like two easy opponents, and then we bumped it up to normal, and then on Monday we decided to put it on hard for the first time.
Oh boy.
And it's been a while since I've played on hard, and like there's a trick to it, and I don't remember what it is because it is fucking brutal. Like that.
It's brutal as Celeste?
What's that?
As brutal as Celeste?
It's different because Celeste is difficult, but not. Celeste doesn't cheat. Like Sins of a Solar Empire cheats. The game like for computer on hard level, I think it's at 1.5 speed. So they're building stuff that we can't even hope to afford yet because they're just getting income at a much faster rate. And, yeah, I mean, it's not even like an AI thing. It's just pure numbers. So it's a little unfair, unfortunately. But other than that, I think, I'm looking forward to sitting back down with him again and firing that up and coming up with a different strategy because now we have to try to like figure out the best way to deal with it. And I think it's all going to be choke points.
Huh. Yeah, I feel like there's a gravitational pull to this game, like especially with Vency. He seems like he's like kid in a candy store, like when he gets to play with you.
Yeah, he's been enjoying it. I've been enjoying playing the game again. It was one of my favorite strategy games when it came out. It still is. And, it's hard for me to find people to play with. So when the game came up for free, it was, pretty cool that he jumped on it. I was really excited about that. So we've been enjoying that. But it's definitely one of those things where like you start playing at 9 o'clock and then you look at the time and it's after midnight easily. And that's definitely a problem.
It's a good and bad thing.
It really is. It's kind of nice. Like it kind of brings me back to my younger days, but man, it makes getting up in the morning a lot more difficult.
Yo, yeah.
So we did throw out onto Facebook asking everybody what you guys are playing right now. And we got a lot of feedback. So I want to thank everybody for sending in their thoughts. David says he's looking forward to Resident Evil 2 while dabbling in Fortnite. Also going to check out the Alien Blackout mobile game, which is releasing soon. Now, I had no idea that there was an Alien mobile game coming out. And
let alone just a mobile game that somebody's playing.
Yeah. I mean, well, mobile games are pretty popular, but we don't hear a lot about it from gamers. Like, I feel like a lot of gamers, mobile gaming is still kind of that sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
But he says it's some kind of a like Five Nights at Freddy's clone, but it's set in the Alien universe. So I don't really know much about Five Nights at Freddy's. Are you familiar with that at all?
No, I'm not actually at all.
It's some kind of like horror like thing, I guess. I know there's a lot of kids that are really into it, but I've never played one, so I have absolutely no frame of reference there.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of it.
Let's see here. We also got a comment from Aaron who says he hasn't been playing any games, just watching Future Man. Are you familiar with Future Man at all?
No, it's just a show, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's something that came out on Hulu. They just put out season 2. It does have roots in video games. The story is kind of based off of a kid who plays too many games. He's like, a young adult kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
I started watching it, and I wasn't really crazy about it. I really didn't get past like the third episode of season 3, but it's a comedy. I think Seth Rogen is involved in it.
Okay.
The humor's a little bit on the I'm trying to find the right word. I don't know. It's very vulgar and very bold.
Okay.
So
is it kind of like Family Guy, but just like with like a little dash of like South Park?
Well, I mean, just think about like Seth Rogen's films and just apply that to a TV show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's nothing, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it just wasn't for me.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, that's all I really have to say about it. But I guess it's good enough. It got enough viewers to get a season 2, so I think that's pretty cool. Maybe I'll give it another shot. I really didn't give it enough time. I only gave it 3 episodes, and then I kind of dropped it. So maybe I'll go back to it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Thomas says he's been hammering away at Dark Souls 2, trying to get all the achievements on Xbox. Got Dark Souls 1 done. Next up is Dark Souls 3. Wow. That is a deep undertaking.
Yeah, that's a tall glass of water with nails in it. Rusted nails.
Oh, man. I don't know how anybody could just put that much time in to get all the achievements on that game. I've never played them, though. Like, those games just look like they would make me want to kill myself.
Well, the thing with Tom, and Tom is one of my best friends ever. He is my best friend. And he and I love that franchise. And I actually feel like I have like a bone to pick with him now about this. Because we were playing... Tom, this is a message to you. And I know you're going to listen to this episode. We were playing Dark Souls 2 together, okay? You stopped. I wanted to keep playing. We got divorced. We never hashed it out. I'm angry about it.
Tom, what the hell are you doing, man?
Yeah.
You're breaking his heart.
My heart is breaking as we speak. It was broken, and then I mended it, and now it's broken again because of this message.
It's like digging up old wounds.
It really is.
Thomas, you're a horrible person.
Man, like I said, I hope you're listening to this so you can hear and feel my frustrations and my sadness that you've brought on by this comment. But anyway, love you, man, and I can't do this performance anymore.
Well, I know I'll never be the same again.
Yeah, no, you're tainted.
I'm tainted forever. I've never played the Dark Souls games. They're
just so good, man.
I mean, I appreciate them for what they are. I have respect for them, but I know in my heart of hearts that I probably do not deserve to play them. And I would not appreciate them the way they're supposed to be appreciated, and I would not give them the time or the attention that they deserve.
They're frustrating,
yeah.
And they need the attention. They need the commitment. Without the commitment, I think that those games are easily like either thrown away, thrown across the room.
Right.
A controller gets broken, and then we have sadness again. So I think the key with those games is commitment and patience more than anything else.
I've become the master of turning off the system when things get like too difficult. I'm just like, you know what? I'll come back to this later. Put the controller down, go do something else.
It's how it was back in the day,
Yeah.
Shut off the Sega.
You got to, because you know what? Controllers are expensive now. They're $70, so
it's outrageous.
I was looking at the Pro controller, $70 for the Nintendo Switch. That. Oh my god.
I feel like I might have paid more than that too, which is like horrible. I think when it first came out, and we can Wikipedia this or Google it, but I'm pretty sure that it was $90 when it first came out.
That wouldn't surprise me. Let's see here. Vic has been playing the Resident Evil 2 demo. He said it was fun. The atmosphere was great. Gameplay feels dated, but he can see why they left it as is. He also wishes that the gameplay was updated to current gen standards. I kind of pushed him for a little bit more description as to what felt dated. And we had a nice back and forth with him and Joe and Dave. He said the movement, the aiming, the combat felt dated, but he said it felt like it was on purpose because they were trying to keep this feel of nostalgia. And Joe chimed in that he believes that everything that was dated was intentional. Controls better than any of the previous third-person entries in the series, and he feels that it was a good refinement. So Dave also felt like it was good. So yeah, I mean, like that's one thing that I've always struggled with Resident Evil games is the controls. I have a hard time getting around the way the controls are set up. Even back when it was a brand new game, that was a struggle for me.
Yeah, it's such a tough like subject, I guess, or like an analysis on like a remake or an HD remaster, because like a lot of these games, they're not getting what everybody expects, and some people do expect like a huge overhaul in terms of controls and graphics and kind of like everything, top to bottom. And I think that a lot of these games just are doing what they can, and they're doing what feels important to them and to the fans. And it's just one of those things you just can't satisfy everybody. And
yeah, I mean, if they were to remake Resident Evil 2 and change the controls drastically, I think people would be pissed.
Yeah, because I think the hardcore Resident Evil fans are used to those tank controls, and the controls are super tanky.
Yeah.
And, it's, I guess, true to the series. So you're going to get half and half. You're going to get, modern-day gamers that want fluid controls because that's what they're used to. And then you're going to get the, throwback guys that are like, no, this is the way it's supposed to be. And, it's expected. So when I saw those comments, I was like, yeah, Vic's coming from games that have very fluid controls, and then you go back and you play something like that, even though it's new, it's still you should expect some, I guess, I don't know. The first word that comes to my mind is not even a word, but like I wanted to say like oldness. That oldness is going to be present, I think, even with, like I said, a remake or remaster. Yeah.
Let's see here. Vic is also still playing PUBG and Rocket League as usual, and he says that he's still interested in Anthem as well. And then after he posted this, he went and pre-ordered the damn thing, so I guess we'll be hearing about that as well. Joe has been playing Vane, which is a fairly new game that actually you introduced me to a couple days ago, Will. He says it initially captured his interest, but unfortunately it had too many issues to recommend. And he did post a review. Joe, if you don't mind, I'm going to show your site out real quick, redringcircus.com. If you want to check out his thoughts on Vane, as well as movies, all kinds of media here. Just kind of looking through the list. He's got a really, really sharp-looking site. I like this.
Yeah, Joe will definitely be on most likely the next episode, or maybe the one after that. He's coming up next. And Joe and I sent a couple faxes back and forth to each other recently about Vane, and he told me to hold off, because there's a lot of, I guess, graphical or technical issues with it right now, which is a little disappointing because I believe it is, technically a finished version, but it'll get a patch, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, just the opening line here, he writes, for its glorious opening hour, I forgave Vane of its erratic camera, extra chunky frame rate on a PS4 Pro, and touchy controls. So I think that kind of sets the tone for disappointment there.
It does. You know, I noticed that he said he forgave, you know, some of the things that, you know, were going on, but at the same time, like, I expect a game like that to kind of be complete, especially when it's like an indie game that, you know, most indie games don't really suffer from those kind of issues.
Right. I agree. And especially with an indie game, like, you want that level of polish. I know it's an independent game, but when they're focusing on, you know, story and beauty and things like that, it's really important to make sure that it all works. If you have technical glitches getting in the way, that's going to take people out of the moment.
I think so.
Yeah. Let's see here. Did I miss anybody? I don't think so. We had a lot of feedback today. Thank you to everybody who sent in their thoughts on what they've been playing lately and what they're looking forward to. If you do want to let us know what's on your mind, hit us up. You could either hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at WDGRPodcast, or shoot us an email, WDGRPodcast@gmail.com. So, Will, we're going to kind of pivot now to our main topics for the day here. 2019 has officially begun, and got a lot of games that are going to be coming out this year. Some surprise announcements that were made even today. And let's start out by talking about two games that we're looking forward to. And I think we should kind of go back and forth, you know, one at a time.
Sure.
You know, because otherwise I'll ramble on forever.
Yeah, I might too.
So what's one of your two games that you're looking forward to in 2019?
Ghost of Tsushima.
Man, that was just a jaw-dropping video that you showed me.
Yes, when Drew was hanging out with me recently, we took a look at the video, and it's basically a trailer that came out, I believe, last year at E3. And gosh, I don't even know where to start. I mean, just visually, it's something that's, you know, stunning, and it kind of just has that arresting quality, you know, from the get-go. And I think that that's the kind of reaction that you had. You know, it was just kind of like, wow, like, you know, what's this? And there's leaves, there's foliage, and there's just this incredible looking, you know, world that takes place in 1274 on Tsushima Island, which I'm assuming is obviously in Japan. And I don't know much about it. It just seems like you play some kind of samurai warrior who perhaps is still alive after what seems to be perhaps a major war, based on kind of like, you know, what you read and see in the trailer. And he has a horse that he seems to have a really good bond with. And then you just kind of see him riding through this field of like wheat. It seems like wheat fields, along with just other foliage, and the music kind of kicks in, and it just reminds you immediately of, you know, movies like The Last Samurai and things like that. And you're just stunned. You know, I mean, at least I was. Most people that saw the trailer live or even after, they were just like, wow, like this is really what I envisioned next-gen games to look like. And to me, that's how they should look at this point. Like, we're at that point now where we should be pushing these consoles to the max.
Yeah.
Because before you know it, we're going to get a PS5 or whatever the next Sony console is, along with Xbox. So I expect them to be at this level, and I'm incredibly excited for it. The combat looks a little bit wooden right now, but I'm sure that what they showed was alpha or beta footage, maybe even something, you know, I wouldn't say worse than alpha, but maybe something before that. It was, you know, you could tell it's early footage. And, you know, he kind of fights some dudes, and he meets up with a woman, and then they, you know, kind of go to like this little monastery or something to go and like kidnap or find some monk. And then he ends up fighting the woman that he meets up with, and it's like this beautiful setting with like red leaves, and they're underneath a tree, and it just looks like it's like raining these red leaves, almost like it's raining blood. And it's incredible. It almost looks like you're playing a movie because there's no HUD on the screen. And as far as I know, you can play the game in Japanese dialogue with English subtitles, and you can play with no HUD on the screen as well if you want more of that kind of cinematic quality.
Interesting.
But yeah, incredibly excited for it in terms of developers. It's going to be Sucker Punch Productions. They were behind, believe it was Infamous Second Son, which was one of the launch titles for PS4, I believe. And the artist is Jason Connell. I believe he worked on that game as well. But he's kind of like the, I guess like the showrunner for this game. Like he's kind of the head guy that's kind of behind all interviews and things like that.
Okay.
And the publisher is Sony Interactive Entertainment. So it seems to be quite the development and publishing team. You know, I feel like I'm very confident in what they can do.
Yeah, Sony has a pretty good track record with their first-party titles, you know. And Infamous, I never really got into the series, but and I know a lot of people were really big fans of it. You know, it was a well-crafted game, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the video that you showed me, I think, was just the E3 trailer from last year, and it just looked absolutely amazing. Just this almost like a movie. It felt like I was watching an actual movie.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, is really contributing to the fact that there's no HUD, and that their sort of inspiration to make this game was kind of taken from Japanese samurai cinema.
Yeah.
You know, Akira Kurosawa films like such as Seven Samurai and Sanjuro. Those are really old films that were, you know, like from the 50s and 60s.
Right.
And apparently they consulted a historical sword fighting expert by the name of David Ishimaru to help create a historically based foundation for the game.
Interesting.
So, you know, I love The Last Samurai, the movie. I love everything to do with samurai, so this is very fitting for me. And I think that it's been a while since we've seen a game like this that kind of takes place in that setting. You know, we've played games like Tenchu and things like that, but, you know, we need something for 2019 for kind of the current generation to see something from this time period, because I think that everybody loves a samurai, everybody loves a dude with a sword.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've seen anything like this, and I mean, actually, I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like this, you know. But I mean, anything in that genre or anything in that setting, I'm looking forward to it. I didn't know I wanted it until I saw that trailer, and I think this is something I'm definitely gonna have to check out.
Oh yeah, I mean the trailer alone, like if you know nothing about it, it's going to sell you.
Yeah, for sure. I've been starting to get a little bit amped up about Anthem. So I was a pretty big Destiny fan. You know, maybe not as big as some people, but yeah. I mean, well, he's kind of you know, stepped away from the game as well too. But like Destiny 1, I played pretty religiously, and then Destiny 2 came out, and you know, at the beginning I was really nonstop playing it as well too, and I just kind of got burned out on it. And Anthem scares me a little bit because I feel like it's going to be a very similar experience. But the thing is BioWare has a really good track record in my book. Not always perfect, but you know, Mass Effect Andromeda was a bit of a stumble for a few reasons. But I feel like they have the right team working on this. And I've been watching, like, they've been putting out more and more video of the game, more trailers, more gameplay vids, more breakdowns and things like that. And it just has this, like, undeniable BioWare feel to me. And it makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
I feel like in some ways, like, you know, based on the little footage I've seen, it seems like it's their way. It's like their comeback. Like, it's their comeback kid of a game.
It very well could be. It very well could be. You know, the game is gorgeous. It seems to run fast. I haven't seen any video that has really stuttered or anything like that. But of course, they're only going to show us stuff that's in a controlled environment, so you really can't judge by that. But you know, there's 4 different character classes that you can play as, and you know, they set it up so that it encourages people to play, you know, in teams of 4. Although I believe you can go off on your own if you want. I've been trying to keep myself kind of in the dark with the game because I don't want my expectations to get too high. I don't want to overhype myself for it.
Yeah.
But I've become like really interested in it, especially in the past couple weeks as more and more video comes out, and I'm starting to kind of fall into that hype train, and it scares me because BioWare has a reputation for making awesome stuff, and I'm a big supporter of theirs, but Mass Effect Andromeda was a bit of a letdown. And as far as the type of game goes, with Destiny, big supporter of it, but eventually I got burned out on it. And I just don't know if I have the time or the energy to focus on a game that's going to be super grindy. And I have a feeling that this game might be super grindy.
It could be. Again, I really don't know much, but I feel like it's important to kind of address the fact that this game, I feel like, was announced a couple E3s ago, right? Like, wasn't it announced like some time ago?
Yeah, they announced this, I want to say 2017. Let me see if I can find out.
Yeah, like it has an interesting history where it was announced, like I said, like a couple years ago. And, people kind of knew what it was about, like when they introduced it. But then I feel like it just kind of disappeared and everybody like forgot about it. And it was actually a work colleague that had told me about the game. And I had then looked it up and I was like, huh, like I actually don't remember seeing this. And then I looked into it and I was like, wow, this actually looks, quite cool. And then I started like, spreading the news and trying to, ask friends if they had heard about it. And it sounds like it just, slipped under the radar for a while. And maybe it was just because they were, still making the game.
Yeah.
But I just find it interesting how it seemed to have like disappeared. And then like now all of a sudden it's like, boom, like we're here. The game's almost done. It's going to be out soon. And it's just kind of back on the radar.
BioWare has a habit of kind of performing things that way. Like they'll give you a teaser and then they'll go dark.
Yeah.
And they'll really focus on making that game, as good as possible. And then all of a sudden they're like, all right, are you ready for this? and they kind of, they start giving you more and more information at that point. So that's not atypical of their style. So yeah, it looks like 2017, Microsoft was actually the first company to debut it. This is coming out on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Windows. I don't know about crossplay or anything like that, but hopefully that'll be something that's available as well too. And yeah, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic about it. It comes out about a month from now, February 22nd. So I got to make a decision soon whether or not I'm going to buy it because. This is the type of game where you don't want to miss out on day one. You want to get in on the ground floor. Otherwise, you can kind of get left in the dust.
Yeah.
So, but it just, if you haven't checked it out, go watch some videos of it. It actually just looks stunning.
I will.
And I think if you've played a BioWare game, you'll know what I mean when I say it looks just undoubtedly BioWare.
Sure. And I haven't played much. I've only played like a little bit of Mass Effect 1, and I think that's the only game I've played from BioWare.
Never played Jade Empire or Knights of the Old Republic?
Nope.
You never played Knights of the Old Republic?
Oh, here we go.
Jesus Christ, Will.
Yeah, the amount of times I've heard that in my life, it's I'd be a millionaire.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I know.
All right, folks, we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, I'm shunned now from the show.
Yeah. All right, what do you got next on your list here?
I have Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Another Japanese-infused game. This is kind of a lot like Ghost in some ways in terms of the fact of, I guess, setting. And the premise may be similar, but it's very... The way I like to see this game is it's like Bloodborne mixed with Dark Souls mixed with Tenchu. And there's a reason for that is the developer is From Software, who does and has developed all of the Dark Souls games and Demon Souls. And it's directed by Hidetaka Miyazaki, who's also the head honcho behind all of those games, except for 2. And Dark Souls 2, that is. But anyway... He's directing this game, and it's basically, I believe you play as some form of ninja. I don't know if he really is a ninja or if he's like a lord or what, but definitely seems like a ninja. And he has a contraption on one arm that allows him to use it as like a grappling hook. So, again, that's a throwback to Tenchu because that was a huge component and or like device that was used in pretty much, I think, all of the games.
Yeah.
And it allowed you to traverse, around the world, on top of rooftops and trees and whatever. And I guess the word Sekiro means one-armed wolf in Japanese. And it's kind of referencing the player's situation, while the subtitle Shadows Die Twice was originally only meant to be used as a slogan for the teaser trailer, I guess until Activision requested it to be kept for the final name.
Gotcha.
So it's a weird game. I mean, I wouldn't say weird. It just seems kind of mysterious still. Like it's in that phase where we don't know a whole lot about it. It just shows, there's trailers and there's gameplay of this guy just using this contraption and using his swords and, just fighting enemies, and the world looks really good. The graphics look good. Everything about it seems, again, very fitting for my kind of play style and my kind of game. And I think being a fan of the Tenchu series and being a fan of, Japan and ninjas and swords and the same kind of reasons I had for Ghost, this is on my radar. Like it's way up there. That and Ghost are kind of like my top two right now for this year.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know anything about this game until you mentioned it, and I still don't really know much about it. And it's coming out in March, just a couple months from now.
Yeah, it's crazy. I feel like E3 kind of just happened like, a couple months ago, and we're already at that point now where it's like, we're in January, middle of January, and it just seems like a lot of these games that I feel like they were just announced, they're coming out like in a matter of months. And we're at that time period again where it's like, it's resolution time. How many games can I beat before I buy another one? And this is how they get you, because they time it perfectly where it's like, we're going to release it early spring or mid-spring when we know that like everybody's like still working on a bunch of games from last year.
Right.
And it just becomes this kind of, like we said, a vicious cycle of like, oh, no, I need this game. And I want to play it like while everybody else is playing, because you want to be on that hype train.
Yeah.
And then you play it for 20 minutes and you're like, oh, this is awesome, but I'm not ready for it. And then you kind of move on. But either way, it's probably going to be a day one game for me, like even if with my backlog, which I'm sure I'll still have by then. But I don't care. I need to play this game.
I think the trick is going to be like finding a way to commit to it. Like instead of us buying games and having them be in the backlog, we need to buy them, commit to them, and then move on to the next one.
Right.
Like I haven't started, God of War or Nier Automata yet, and I don't intend to until I'm ready. I think that's going to be the key. Like, make sure you're ready to actually devote your time to this game before you pop it in.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing is like a lot of these games that we're excited for are not games that you can kind of dip in and dip out. These are not, Call of Duty, like let's just play, Search and Destroy for 20 minutes and then stop playing. It just doesn't work like that.
Well, my next game might be.
And what would that be?
Doom Eternal. Following up on the success of 2016's Doom, id Software is coming out with a new Doom featuring the amazing music of Mick Gordon once more again. Dude, this guy actually put out a call on the internet so that he could put together a heavy metal choir.
Wow. That's so like Devin Townsend.
It really is. Can you? I could definitely picture Devin Townsend doing a heavy metal choir.
Yeah.
But like, this is the game for it. Like, if any game needed a heavy metal choir, it's this one. And oh man, I'm just so excited for it. They haven't shown much. There was only one gameplay reveal that they did back at the hell's that thing? Quake Fest or whatever they call it. Back in August. They do like a QuakeCon 2018 it was. They did a reveal there, and they showed quite a bit of gameplay, including some new mechanics. There's like this grappling hook or some kind of thing where you can like pull yourself around the level, which kind of seems a little gimmicky to me at first, but I'm willing to give it a chance. Let's see how it plays, because the melee felt really gimmicky to me as first as well too, and it ended up being one of my favorite parts of the game.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, sometimes I feel like new mechanics that are introduced in games seem kind of wonky and weird, but it might work out.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. The idea is supposed to keep your character moving nonstop, and I think that was just kind of the next evolution of how the game already played. Because with Doom, you were constantly on the go, constantly pressing forward, constantly on the offense. with that game. So, but man, I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's going to be fun. There's going to be some new enemies in there. Enemies from like Doom 2 that didn't make it into the 2016 revival, and just overall, I just have high hopes for this game.
That's cool.
And, yeah, I'm excited. They haven't released an actual date yet. It's just 2019 so far. So, I mean, realistically, there's a possibility it might get pushed back till next year, but I'm hoping not.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it'll be quality, like when it hits stores.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. It doesn't put out bad games, really. I mean, I guess you could kind of argue that like Rage might not have been the best game, but I feel like for the most part they put out solid stuff, and I feel like they're going to continue that. So, anyway, if you have any games that you're looking forward to this year, hit us up on social media at WDGRPodcast. Drop us an email at WDGRPodcast@gmail.com.
Or a fax.
You can send us a fax as well, and nobody will ever see it.
Right. I think it's I think we have it in the basement somewhere, Drew, and I still haven't changed the paper on it.
Like you gotta put new paper in, you gotta change the ink roller.
I know, it's so hard to find those things now.
That's because nobody makes them.
Nope. It's like trying to buy like old memory for your computer. It's like, $3,000 for like one stick of memory.
Or it's like $3, the opposite end of things. Let's see here. So PlayStation recently announced their best-selling games of 2018, and it's a very interesting list. They got their top 10. We grabbed this from a site called barrelrolled.com, but it looks like this was actually posted by Sony, from what I understand. So, some interesting names on this list. Call of Duty Black Ops 4 taking number 1.
Yeah, it's I don't know how I feel about this list. I feel like it's a real wake-up call for me, and it makes me feel like I guess the minority in terms of like somebody who plays a lot of indie games and games that kind of are swept under the rug. Because when I look at this, like this is like pretty much AAA titles across the board.
Yeah, it's all there's no indie titles whatsoever.
No.
Just to give a quick rundown of the list, you got Call of Duty Black Ops 4 at number 1, Red Dead Redemption 2, Spider-Man at number 3, God of War at number 4, which is kind of funny because Red Dead 2 and God of War were technically the second and the fourth entry in respective series. And continuing that pattern, GTA 5 at number 5.
Yep.
And then we're getting into some sports titles here. NBA 2K19, FIFA 19 at 6 and 7, Monster Hunter World at number 8, Far Cry 5 at number 9, and Madden 19 at number 10.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to choose a game on here to kind of play and or agree with, I mean, definitely Red Dead 2. Like, I'm happy that it got the number 2 spot, and I'm not surprised. Other than that, like, I mean, Monster Hunter World, I bought that game like shortly after release and never touched it. I just bought it because like had some friends playing it. It was actually Joe and his now fiance that were playing it, and Aaron and my friend Raph. So yeah, I mean, everything else on there, I'm like, like I could really care less about it.
Right. I mean, I'm not surprised to see Red Dead in the list. I'm not surprised to see Spider-Man on the list or God of War. Those games were really
huge.
They were huge games critically and with game fans. There wasn't a single person that owned a PlayStation that I spoke to that didn't either want to play Spider-Man or already had it. Yeah. And it was a pretty similar story for God of War. That both those games were just massive critical hits, and I think the quality of the games really helped elevate them to the next level too. Because like God of War, I think if it was more of the same, I think people might have checked out on it. But because it was such a well received game in the reviewing community, I think it really took it to the next level as far as sales go.
Yeah, it seems like they made it more story based and story oriented. And in terms of the camera, I know you and I had discussed that they had changed it to like more of a third person, like a close up, sort of like right behind the back style.
Yeah.
Excuse me. In terms of the way the camera was, I think that those little things really kind of added up and kind of
Totally.
piqued people's interest in playing this game.
It's always funny when seeing lists like this too, because I forget how popular that sports games actually are.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have 3 of them on the list: NBA, FIFA, and Madden. I'm actually kind of surprised that Madden wasn't higher on the list in hindsight.
Yeah, like in terms of like just for the fans out there that listen to this show, I don't care about sports so much that they could not exist tomorrow and I wouldn't even blink an eye about it. That's how much I don't care about sports.
I care slightly more than that.
Yeah, I could care less about like sports, man. Like I just, without going off on a tangent, like I don't get it. I don't get it, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I personally do enjoy watching a game here and there. I'm more of a baseball guy and a football guy. I don't watch basketball or soccer whatsoever.
Uh-huh.
But I'll turn on, if the Patriots are playing, I'll throw on the football game. But mostly baseball, mixed martial arts, wrestling, MMA, boxing, that kind of thing. Combat.
Well,
sports.
let me just say this, Drew, just to give the fans one more kind of inkling here on how much I hate sports and or don't care for them. I had a customer come into my store recently, and he said, "Hey, man, how about that dismantling yesterday? Did you see that?" That was how he greeted me, okay? So you're assuming that I care about sports to the point of me knowing what this dismantling is that you speak of. And I looked at him, and I knew he must have been talking about like the football game, because like I'm at least educated enough to kind of know what's going on, like especially on Sundays and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I think it was either Saturday or Sunday. There was a game. I think it was Sunday. It was definitely Sunday, and that was how he greeted me. And I think it was on Monday, and I was just like, I was frozen. I was paralyzed. And I just thought, how dare you, sir? Okay. Can we just talk about how you are making this assumption that I care about sports and I really care about games and other things in life? So I'll stop there because I can really like Bill Burr this situation, and I'm not going to do that.
Have you ever seen the IT Crowd?
Oh, yeah. I've seen, I think, every season, and way back when, too. Like, I was watching that in, like, 2010.
There's a episode where Moss and Roy start getting into soccer. Remember that one?
Vaguely.
So they start trying to have conversations, and, like, the opening line of the conversation is, "Did you see that ludicrous display last night?"
Oh, my God, dude. It just makes my fucking skin crawl.
Oh,
it makes me want to take a football and throw it at that person's chest. Yeah. And it would be a horrible throw, too, because I'm a horrible, like, I have no athleticism. I really don't. Like, I can get on a court and play basketball and shoot and miss a bunch of times and kind of just hold my own to, like, a very feeble extent. So throwing that football at that person's chest would not be very impactful, but hopefully it would hurt just a little bit to kind of make them rethink their, life of assumptions.
All right, let's move on to the next topic.
Let's move on.
Last topic for the evening here is actually Mortal Kombat 11, which, as we're recording this on Thursday the 17th, was revealed today. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really have any idea that this was happening. You kind of queued me up on this one. What's going on here?
Yeah, so, I got home from work and, I was just kind of hanging out, and I went on my phone as usual, and I'm watching stories on Instagram and all that jazz, and I saw that it was happening, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like, I'm not a huge MK fan, but, like, I'm a fan enough to kind of tune in and be slightly invested.
Yeah.
And, I thought that the original teaser or whatever they showed, not that long ago was quite good. Like, it looks really good. And I feel like NetherRealm and Ed Boon and those guys are always really good at creating quality Mortal Kombat games that get better and better every release. So again, I was curious. I watched the, little clips and little live stories and things like that, and it looks good. I don't know where this was being held. I'm assuming somewhere in California. But I watched some gameplay between, I believe it was Scorpion and Baraka, and I believe that Baraka is the most terrifying character ever created in a video game ever.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, imagine you waking up at 2:30 in the morning and you've got Baraka standing next to your bed just drooling on you.
No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. I mean, and see, you had a moment of silence there where you're just like, envisioning this horror.
Well, honestly, for a second, I took a moment to envision him like in normal day-to-day life. Like, imagine you're Baraka and you're trying to brush your teeth, and and first of all, your teeth are like fucking gnarly to begin with, but then you also have,
right.
Giant claws for hands.
No, when you said everyday life, I don't know why I just pictured him walking down like Midtown Manhattan, like trying to get a coffee at Starbucks. Like,
yeah.
You would just see the whole place clear out, and the employees would be like, shivering behind the counter.
Yeah, and then he's like, yes, I'd like a pumpkin spice latte, please.
But it would be like his jaws just wired up because he'd be like spitting through his like foul teeth.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, it was Scorpion and Baraka fighting. It looks really good. It looks like they're still kind of doing some stuff that they introduced in MK9, which was basically like a lot of close-ups of bones breaking and things like that. Mm-hmm. So it looks like they're still kind of messing around with that component of the game. Graphically, it looks stunning. Like, I mean, it looks real. Like, they've got to this point now where like it just looks real. And I think that adds another sort of horrifying value to it because those games are super gory. Yeah. And I'm okay with that, but like sometimes like there's some shit in there that's just like, damn, like that's just fucked up. Like the fatalities are just insane now. Like I guess Baraka has this one where he rips your face off. Then he rips your like jaw off. And then the last step of the fatality is he takes his like long spear thing and just jabs it into your brain, pulls it out, and then takes a bite out of it.
Okay.
And it's like a close-up of it, and I watch it, and I was like, oh, that's cool, but at the same time, I kind of want to vomit.
Yeah.
So it looks like they're really amping it up in terms of gore, and I don't know if that's just kind of face value, or not face value, but shock value. I'm not surprised. It's Ed Boon. I feel like there's got to be like a grotesque, compartment or department in his mind that just he can't seem to close. But I think that's what makes those games so good for what they are. They're known to be gory. They're known to be kind of fast and very impactful. And would I say that I'm excited for it? Sure. I'll probably, I might pick it up. I might not. But, it's definitely something I would watch in terms of competition. I love watching fighting games or fighting game competitions and tournaments. Yeah. So I think that'll be a good one. And, yeah, it was kind of a big deal. I guess like Sonya Blade is being voiced by Ronda Rousey, and for those of you that don't know, that's I believe she's an ex-UFC fighter.
Yeah, she's no longer in MMA. She has made the transition to professional wrestling.
That's right.
Which even though I haven't been watching nearly as often as I used to, I do kind of still follow, and she seems to be doing pretty well for herself.
Yeah, I feel like she's definitely made a name for herself. Like she's a house name, I feel like almost at this point. And, in terms of net worth and things like that, I'm sure she's at least like sitting on a couple mil at this point. So,
easily,
good for her. Yep. But, it's cool. I feel like she's very fitting for that. I don't know if she's done any mocap. And I know we kind of discussed this before the show, and I feel like you had mentioned that it looks like her face kind of resembles her a little bit on Sonya.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a resemblance there. If you go on Kotaku's website, they have a side-by-side, and I'll toss you a link real quick here. It's pretty damn close. Like, I don't know if she did mocap for the actual character itself, but I'm fairly sure they at the very least mapped her face.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
I haven't played a Mortal Kombat game since Ultimate MK3. No, I'm sorry.
Wow.
Mortal Kombat Trilogy was the last Mortal Kombat game I played.
What was that for, like Super Nintendo or Genesis?
Trilogy came out on PlayStation and N64 and Saturn.
Oh, okay. I think I remember the 64 version.
It was based off of Mortal Kombat 3, that fight engine.
Okay.
But they did like basically Mortal Kombat 3.
Yep.
And then they did Ultimate MK3, which just added characters to the MK3 engine, added levels. And then Trilogy was adding even more characters. Basically, it was designed to bring in literally every single character possible.
Sure.
That's the last time I played it. I never jumped over to the 3D world when they did.
Yeah, the last one I played was 9, which was for last gen, 360 and PS3.
Yeah.
And it was a great game, man. Like, again, I'm not a huge MK guy, but like I saw all the trailers when that game was coming out, and it looked really good. A bunch of people had it. I picked it up. I loved it. It was very challenging at times, and it looked really good. They did a really good job with 9.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, I guess this was, like I said before, it was a really big deal today. There was a lot of things trending on Twitter and just the internet overall about this reveal. And I think it's going to do well.
It's nice to see fighting games outside of the Street Fighter universe are still popular.
It is. I mean, the FGC, or the fighting game community, for those that don't know what that stands for.
I had no idea what the fuck you were making up there.
Yeah, I guess they kind of refer to it as the FGC now. And it's a huge thing, but it still seems like a little bit cultish, and that's fine. I kind of prefer it to be that way, but you're right. It is nice to see something that is a little bit more out of the box and out of that cult, if you will. Yeah. Even though MK is still, usually played at most Evos, it's cool to see something that's a little bit more mainstream to maybe get people back into the swing of playing more fighting games, because even Soul Calibur, like the latest one, what is it, like 6 or 7? 6. So I'm sure it did well, but, it's not on that list. Should it be on that list? No, but it would be nice to see a game like that on that list.
Yeah.
So that people can go back and play these games, because I think there's a place for fighting games, and I feel like most people don't play them because they're either too hard, or they cause a lot of, the downfalls of friendships.
Yeah, there's definitely a high barrier to entry, I think, in fighting games, especially in new ones.
Yes. I mean, they're difficult, man.
The more complicated that they get and the more deep that they get, the more time that you have to invest in it. And I think people kind of get scared off by it. When we were kids, like Street Fighter was a super accessible game, or even the original Mortal Kombat, they were just super accessible.
Yeah.
You didn't have to worry about stances and, all this other stuff. And as time has gone on, these games have evolved, for better or for worse, into something more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad to see Mortal Kombat is still around, and I think this is going to be worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
So, on that note, Will, that just about does us for this week's episode. Did you have anything else you wanted to add before we wrap things up?
I hate sports.
Well, I don't know what to tell you, buddy.
Yeah, we'll see what people say in the comments. Keep it off the air.
They're going to rip you up.
Oh, I'm going to get torn up, dude.
You're going to get so torn up.
I'm going to be like a steak that's thrown to like just a pack of like Rottweilers. Make it stop.
So if somebody wants to yell at you on social media, how can they do so?
Will_gear.
And you can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at ScionStorm. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at WDGRPodcast. Be sure you're subscribing to us in iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play, Spotify. Anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find our show. And please share it with everybody that you know. We appreciate everybody who has chimed in and helped make this episode possible today. Thank you for your contributions on Facebook and on Twitter. And we hope that you'll tune in again next week. Hopefully we'll have an interview for you, but we're still working on that, and we'll see what happens.
Drew, there is one more thing.
Yeah, what's up?
Can we set up a P.O. box so people can send us fax paper?
I don't think that's how it works.
All right.
We'll talk about that, because I feel like I need to explain that at the same time I explain how sports work.
Fair enough. I feel like when I said all right, by the way, I put my head down like a sad boy that was told no.
I heard it.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you heard it and felt it, and I just wanted to let you know that I felt very
Are you like Snoopy when he's walking away back to his, or Charlie Brown? When he's
Tail
walking
between my legs, man.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'll survive. I'll keep looking. But yeah, if you want to send us some fax paper, just let me know and we'll make a private transit. Fax paper, man.
Oh, God. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See ya.